the new world that we live in. So if you're listening to this show later, you're gonna have to watch it, because I'm sure when you have Zoom calls or FaceTime calls, if you accidentally do a thumbs up or some gesture, right? You see the thumbs up on the screen. I've never had that happen on the show.
There it is.
Oh wow, we're being taken over. The bots have won. Um, Alexander Herbert, how are you this morning?
I'm good. It's Saturday morning, towards the end of the term of one of the schools that I teach at. So I'm kind of like rushing to get a bunch of stuff done. One of them being the new episode of Lenin in 45 volumes. If you don't already follow that, please do. You can find it on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. It's Lenin in 45 volumes, each word separated by an underscore, and you can find it there.
How does the Communist Manifesto describe capitalism's tendency towards crisis, and how is this playing out in today's economy?
It's a good question. I'm always confronted with people asking, when it comes to, Marx's writings or Lenin's writings or anybody else, how it relates to today and how we might use it to today. And I should state from the get-go that I'm skeptical of how much of any of these older historical texts we can apply dogmatically to today. In the world of the internet and the Control F function, anybody can make an argument and Control F through Marx's collected works or Lenin's collected works and find the argument that they want to make, even though the reality is that these people, Marx, Lenin, Stalin, whoever, they existed in very specific historical times and contexts. And the Communist Manifesto is one of those texts that exists in a very specific historical context. In this case, we're talking about 1848. February 1st, 1848 is when it comes out. If anybody knows, 1848 is what's referred to as Revolutionary Spring. Christopher Clark wrote a great book on the year 1848 called Revolutionary Spring, if anybody's interested. And what happened during that year is that revolutionary activity popped off in just about every major European city. And it's not, at this point, it's not really quite socialists that are popping off the activity, although it is workers. And it's workers in particular who are at this point allying themselves with the bourgeoisie, because the aristocracy of Europe is still a thing. It's still in power. And so what you get in this cauldron of revolutionary activity of everywhere from Ireland to Belgium to what will become Germany to France. Paris, of course, is an important one. Poland, in Milan, in Vienna, in Budapest, everywhere. What you get in these places is a plethora, a sort of like outpouring of manifestos. These are people recognizing the revolutionary activities as they're going on, and they're trying to solidify, trying to codify, if you will, a platform. Because what these revolutionaries of various stripes are finding is that once the revolutions pop off, let's say in Vienna, there's no unifying force or message behind them. And so they either get very aggressively squashed by the reactionary forces, or they just kind of peter out. And this is the case in Paris in particular. 1848 kind of sets the stage for the coming to power of Napoleon III. And so the Communist Manifesto exists in this world of manifestos. But for our purposes and for our interests, this is the manifesto of the so-called Communist League, which commissioned Marx and Engels to write a manifesto to articulate their platform as a group. They asked Marx and Engels because Marx and Engels were the most polemic in the group. They were the guys that, if you've ever participated in any kind of community actions, then you've probably encountered these people who, they challenge everything that's said by somebody that's not them, right? So it's their positions that come forward. And the League votes in agreement of Marx and Engels, and they commission them to write the manifesto. In particular, they commissioned Marx to do it, but Marx is a notorious procrastinator. Finally, they have to slap a deadline on this guy, and that finally compels him, if there's any doubt over how similar maybe you guys are to Marx, if you're a procrastinator or something like that.
I am a procrastinator.
It humanizes him, I think. And so it comes out and it promises to be published in multiple languages, because this communist movement is supposed to be international. It's supposed to be transnational, we'll call it, in the sense that it's supposed to transcend national identity, in the sense that the working class identity is international. It has no national borders. It recognizes no national borders. And so that's something that I think lives with us today. The way that I usually teach Marxism in classes on European history or the history of capitalism or anything like that is I recognize that there are going to be students in my classes, and there's going to be people listening to this podcast who are, if not skeptics of communism or Marxism, they're not going to really believe it. Maybe there's some anarchists that listen and stuff like that. And I don't want to alienate those people by saying that they're wrong or anything. And so what I normally do when I teach the workers' movement, the emergence of the workers' movement through the lens of communism, is I break Marx into three different components. The first one is Marxism as a philosophy. This is the Marx that engages with Hegel. It has a lot to do with dialectical materialism and dialectics in general. Then there is Marx, the political economist. This is the Marx of Capital that kind of dissected capitalism in the dialectic method, but is still very much an economic analysis, dissection of capitalism. And then there's Marx, the revolutionary. This is the platform Marx. This is the Marx that took the political economy that he had and the philosophy, and then applied it to politics into the program. And so in the Communist Manifesto, that's where you get all three of these kind of components of Marxism coming together to finally articulate what's the implication of the political economy that you have, what's wedded to the philosophy that you have. It's a revolutionary platform, and it's one that recognizes class analysis as this sort of the base to a social superstructure, if you will. So that's I think the raw version of what can help us today. And whether you're Marxist or anarchist or liberal, I think what we're realizing today is that class analysis is real. We can't ignore class, because even as you said, the Trumps and the Elon Musk, they're very aware of class distinctions. They have a sense of their difference from the rest of us in terms of the money they have, in terms of the wealth that they have. And so this wedding of class analysis to political economy to a philosophical understanding of history and how time operates into a revolutionary platform. That's sort of the next step. And so that's where we are with the manifesto.